Morse code. So, well, this time is to. What? Anybody have anything to share? Amateur radio related? Anything?
This time is to. What? Anybody have anything to share? Amateur radio related?
Have you checked into a net yet, Barb?
Have I what?
Checked into a net yet?
Yes, I did. I've been actually out of town for the last 3 days, so I wasn't able to do it the last 3 days, but yes, I did.
Excellent.
Good.
Okay.
Well, I didn't exactly check in. I lurked.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So actually checking in is next.
You mean you didn't touch the PTT button? You just listened to the receive side, right?
Yes.
That's good.
Who's Annette?
Who's net?
Who's Annette?
Oh, haven't met her yet, but we're hoping to. All right, are you going to go to bed on us here, Mitchell?
Yeah.
What is this?
How's the gymnastics coming?
It's 9 o'clock.
Man, good grief.
I was at work at 4 this morning, so.
Where are you, Mitchell? Where are you located?
I live in Michigan.
Oh, Michigan, the northern part. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Patrick's in Georgia.
We've been doing a big SAN upgrade from a 750 terabyte to a petabyte big storage array. So we've been going in very, very early in the morning. So
Is that because of heat, or what's the reason?
Oh, no, work. Work. We go in before everybody else is in at work.
Oh, I guess. I was wondering why the schedule.
Yeah.
Got it. So you get it ready for them, so you're out of the way when they get there,
Yep.
or you hope you're out of the way.
Yep.
Good evening, Lisa.
Thank you, Frank, for getting your call sign up there. Wait, Lisa, you can put your call sign. Let me see. Let's see. Is it K6 Edith Piaf? No, that's not it. There you go.
Good evening.
Good evening, Lisa. So how'd your dog do in the show? On the show?
She got last place consistently.
Oh, well, at least he's consistent.
Well, our speaker tonight, Lisa, also shows dogs, so you have a kindred spirit there.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
My wife and I
there you go.
we show dogs also, key sounds.
Yeah, I know that.
Oh, neat. Oh, good.
Who else shows dogs besides Jim?
Mitchell.
W-A-D-O-D Mitchell.
Oh, Mitchell.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did you watch the Westminster?
Well, yeah, it's kind of rigged, but yeah, we watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all are nowadays.
Disappointed. Yeah, disappointed with the pick, but, you know.
Is that, I think the dog that won it didn't come with the pole for the mop? Is that what it was?
Yeah, they left the pole out. Yeah, that was a problem.
I'll probably get some broken glass in my house. Good evening,
So we
Lauren.
were that the Flats made it into the sporting group. And Rosie's cousin took best of opposite.
Very good.
One of her relatives, yeah.
Best
Another
opposite?
girl.
What is that?
Best of opposite.
That means second place, basically.
If the
No.
if the
Of
dog that
the breed.
if the dog that wins the breed is one gender, then they pick the best of the other opposite gender.
Oh, okay.
Oh, got it. Got it. Got it.
And then if for any reason that dog gets disqualified, then your dog gets to go up. But that very rarely happens. But it's pretty political. You know, you got to smooth the judges and have lots of money for handlers and stuff like that.
Sounds like gymnastics.
Angel, come here. My dog knew I was going to try to pick her up, so she took off.
Yeah. So tomorrow there's a GOTA. Does it start at 9 o'clock? Does anybody know?
No GOTAs tomorrow.
It is not tomorrow. It's going to be a field day.
Oh,
9 o'clock at field day site
on Saturday?
on Saturday, right.
Okay, great. Thanks. I'm glad you told me. I'm glad I asked and didn't just show up.
Well, Mr. Limmer, you may want to think about that, having somebody at the site at Clayton Valley Church tomorrow, just in case.
The only 3 people that RSVP'd have been notified. Anybody else that shows up was uninvited.
Well, I mean, not everybody's invited. We said all comers.
We did.
So Lisa's a case in point. Good evening, Lauren.
You're muted.
You're muted, Lauren. Good evening, Pete.
Larry, you might want to put a reminder out on the groups IO for both the main group and the training group.
Well, how about I let you do it?
Me?
Or let Mr. Loomer do it.
That's what I'm saying, Larry.
Oh, that Larry. Got it.
That Mr. LNB, Larry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Let's see. Lauren, can you unmute?
You'll find it before we're done.
There you go. Got it.
There.
Good evening, Lauren.
Good evening.
So we got a Saturn course on the 7th of July, right?
Yes. That's the safe child thing, which they're making all the volunteers for anything go through.
Well, that's a good thing. And it's like 2 hours on afternoon at Salvation Army Church. Is that correct?
No, it's online, I believe.
Oh, I thought it had to be in person.
What?
I thought it had to be in person. I guess I misunderstood.
I'm going to take a look at that over the weekend and see. I've made some comments about them doing these things in the middle of work days.
Oh, God, that's true. So my anticipation here, by the way, is that we will be meeting in person for the next general business, the general membership meeting, as well as having a Zoom option. So if you, Lauren, can check with our Savior's Lutheran Church to just find out about facilities and availability, and as soon as you know, let me know, because Mike, W6MEW, and I would like to go there and meet you there, and just do a audio Zoom / video check there to see that and everything's going to work for using a Zoom option.
And also, Lauren,
absolutely.
Also, is there Wi-Fi available at the church?
Yes, they put in Wi-Fi in the main hall where we meet, and it's it seemed to be a pretty good Wi-Fi.
All right, and it'll be accessible for us?
Yes.
Okay.
I will make sure that's accessible, one way or the other.
Yeah, password. The password would probably be the thing we would have to have. That's probably password protected.
Yes. So we'll take care of that, and I've got to find out what the social spacing rule is going to be, whether we can just do what we normally do or not. I've got to find out. I brought up a couple of things, and they hadn't even thought about if we can bring food or drink in there, that sort of thing.
Well, since this is not a mega event, my reading of what's on the county's website, Contra Costa Health Department, is no restrictions whatsoever.
Yeah,
no social
I would
distancing.
I would agree, but the facility may do something different. I doubt it at this point. That I will talk to them tomorrow or Sunday morning when I'm there, and then get in hold of the actual facilities. We have a new facilities person, Skip, who's been working with us for years, is retiring June 30th. So I have to get the new facilities person.
Okay. Well, that would be good to know. It'll be good to know about the social distancing, because if that's too onerous of a situation, we may look elsewhere.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. So we'll see. I don't think we're going to have a problem with that. We're not. What do we expect? 50 people at a meeting?
That would be a high number for us. That's
what I figure. And I looked at that room, and it seats 300, so we should be able to.
And if we offer a Zoom option, you know that a lot of people are going to opt for the Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's more convenient. And but for those who would like to get together and face to face and that kind of thing, I think we should make that available.
How retro?
Board meeting. I'm sorry, Pete.
How retro? Face to face.
Exactly.
Yeah, really. How low tech, huh, Pete?
Right.
Pete, the answer is you won't have to talk to everybody on using your handheld.
I don't know if you remember, but one of the QST magazines one of the president's messages that I wrote for the Carrier alluded to a short story by Isaac Asimov that I think would be well worth reading, about a culture that actually never met. It would not meet face to face. It was sort of like taboo, and so it was sort of anyway. It's probably worth a good read. So I can't remember the name of the short story by Isaac Asimov, but
this was written long before COVID.
Oh yeah, long before. Yeah.
So Isaac Asimov was like from the 50s and 60s.
He was writing when he was in college. He was writing his Foundation series while he was still in college. And I don't know if any of you read the Foundation series, but
how many still have a copy of the Foundation series?
Probably online now. Yeah.
No, I have the hardback. I have the hardback still.
Yeah. That's like having the hardback of the Tolkien's trilogy, right?
Have it.
Rings. Yeah.
have it.
Yeah.
I have the hardback version of the Clavel Shogun.
I have the paperback version of that. A version of, speaking of books, and Mr. Luber, we'll get to you in just a second because we did allocate some time for you. And that was my dad, when he was growing up, he had every single book by Edgar Rice Burroughs on the Tarzan series. And you know what? He traded those books away for, I don't know, getting old cigar boxes so he could mount butterflies. So it's like, I wish we had those books now, you know. Tarzan and the Ant-Man, Tarzan and the whatever. So Mr. Loomer, I think we're going to, I don't know if we allocated some time for Mr. Loomer to do a quick presentation here to just let us know what's coming up for Field Day, what the needs are for Field Day in terms of volunteers. So Larry, if you're going to screen share something, I do have that up.
What's up?
Well, yeah, your son's there.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Today happens to be this young man's 80th birthday. Today.
Good grace.
Oh no, just so.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Larry. Happy birthday to you.
Exactly why.
Yay, Larry.
Hey. I'm a music teacher. There's a reason we don't do music over Zoom because that's exactly what happens when we try to sing all at the same time. But I just want to embarrass him for a second. Now it's all back to you. Okay.
So,
I'm wondering if
you did that to me, I disown him.
I'm wondering if you put 80 candles on a cake, is it considered to be illegal fireworks?
There you go.
Okay, Mr. Luber, that way embarrass you. I'm to no tears. Take it away.
Well, it's going to take me to 5 minutes to unred my face.
That's okay.
Or I can do that and make my presentation. Okay, I'm going to read from the instructions that came out in the carrier, and also the instructions that were sent out a couple of days ago, just in case there's somebody online tonight that doesn't know what Field Day is. And it'll be kind of just a brief overview of Field Day, and then we'll get into the particulars for MDARC. Field Day is one of the biggest events in North American amateur radio. It runs around the clock from start to finish on the fourth weekend of June every year. More than 40,000 radio amateurs gather with their clubs, groups, and friends to operate from remote locations. MDARC's Field Day site will be at the Olympic High School on Salvio Street, corner of Elm Street, 4 blocks east of Port Chicago Highway in Concord, California. I will repeat that in case anybody's trying to write it down. We'll be at Olympic High School on Salvio Street. It's at the corner of Elm Street, 4 blocks east of Port Chicago Highway, which is where the BART trains run, down the middle of or above Port Chicago Highway, and this is in Concord. We'll start setting up on Friday afternoon before the event, so come on down and help out, stay to work with some bands, and generally have a good time. Bring your RV, trailer camper, or sleep in your car and stay overnight if you'd like to. Basic food and drink will be provided. We will have portable toilet facilities available. If needed, a shopping center with a Safeway store and other food vendors is 6 blocks away. You don't need to have HF privileges or even be a ham to make contacts at our Field Day site. We will have band captains on hand to act as control operators, so come on down and get involved in ham radio. So are there any questions on the basics of what Field Day is and is what's going to be from this particular writing?
Larry, it's in the parking lot, right?
That's correct. Olympic High School parking lot. And you'll recognize the parking lot by 2 banks of overhead solar panels. So if you see solar panels, turn right and go into the parking lot. Any other questions on the location? Okay. Again, I'll be reviewing an email that was sent out a couple of days ago for those that possibly didn't get that email. The official time for contesting is 11 a.m. on Saturday, June 26th to 11 a.m. on Sunday, June 27th. Okay.
If
However,
you're not, speaking, please mute yourself. We're getting some background noise.
However, we will start setting up on Friday, June 25th at 1:30 p.m. and take down and clean up after 11 o'clock a.m. on Sunday. And we will leave the premises by 2 p.m. on Sunday. Food will be available for those at the location setting up on Friday evening and also on Saturday for breakfast and lunch. We will be having our usual barbecue at 6 p.m. on Saturday evening. Breakfast will be provided for those on site Sunday morning. So that's a listing of the food that will be available to all those that show up at the field day site. In order to plan for the barbecue, we need to know how many people are planning to attend. Please let me know by June 21st, and that is next Monday, if you are planning to join us for dinner. We want to be sure to have enough food for everyone who is planning to be at the barbecue. And if you would like to bring a dish to share at the field day supper or to share at any other time during the field day activities, your special dish would be most welcome. So reservations can be made to my email address, which is LARYLOOMER@yahoo.com. And again, the deadline is June 21st, Monday. Okay, we need multiple volunteers for positions that have not been filled as of yet. We have a couple of volunteers for the handling the food, and I thank you for your volunteering. But we still need a few more volunteers to run and get things like pizzas and sandwiches and things like that. So we just still need a runner to do that work. At one table, we'll have visitors being able to write their names in Morse code and then tap the code out using a code key. So we need someone to supervise that activity so people can get acquainted with what Morse code is. And getting on the air, we'll have a call from one ham to another ham, and by a visitor. Like a couple of years ago, I had a son or a brother and sister that wanted to talk to each other on the radio. So I went across the parking lot and had somebody at the check-in counter operate with the daughter, and I operated with the son, and they talked back and forth to each other using their RHTs. And they got a real charge out of that. And hopefully they got enough of a charge that they'll go for their licenses one of these days. So we'll need 2 guys to supervise that. Our amateur television group will be providing an ATV demonstration and from the MDARC 1 van, and Jim, I hope, will be doing that. Is that correct, Jim?
That is correct.
Outstanding. Thank you, Jim. Communication will be in action for all to see. Mike Warren, W6MEW, will be in charge of the communication trailer. And there are 4 operating positions inside the trailer. So you can go in there and operate from there or operate from a table out underneath the solar panels.
So, Larry, are you using what I'm showing on the screen? Is that what you're reading from?
Basically, yes. It's been modified slightly. My copy is modified slightly, but what you've got there is what we're going to be doing.
Okay.
Basic description. Thank you for putting that up, Larry. Okay. We need a person to be a greeter to welcome visitors for field day. We'll be keeping a visitor's log to count the number of visitors that we have on site, and we need a person to do that task. And we'll be setting up a public information table for making contact with the visitors. That could be the same person as the visitor's log person. And then hams can bring their own radios and either operate or demonstrate their radios to the public as the public comes through and is interested in asking questions. We need ice chests to keep the drinks cold and tables for our public demonstrations and for dinner time. So if you have a folding table or an ice chest that you can bring with you, that'd be much appreciated. And then we need volunteers to deliver and set up and take down tables and pop-ups. That would be on Friday afternoon, and also takedown would be Sunday early afternoon. And so contact me if you would like to be a volunteer, and I can put you down on my list, and be sure to be there when we are doing setup.
Question, Larry.
Yes, go ahead.
Mark Trelig here, WA6NGC. I see on that list you need some more VEs. Is that true?
I think I have enough. I didn't read it off my list because I think we have enough VEs that would be showing up. But if you're there during the time, I will ask for VEs, and you are certainly welcome to volunteer.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to get a refresher on VE work, you can look over somebody else's shoulder or have somebody coach you. Either way, you can get on the list and get a refreshment of your experience as a VE. So thank you for volunteering.
We'll do that, and 25 years of VEing I think will serve me well. Almost as long as you.
Well, no, I'm considerably less than you have, unfortunately, in as far as time spent. But again, thank you for volunteering. So I'll need reservations for the barbecue from people. If you will email me at my email address, that would be appreciated. So are there any questions on what I've read? And thank you again, Larry, for putting that up.
I got your email correct, right?
That's affirmative.
All right.
Larry, you might also want to remind them about the GOTA change.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. We have we only had 3 sign-ups for last Saturday, and hopefully more people will be available. No, I'm not. We had 3 sign-ups for this coming Saturday, tomorrow. And so we figured that we might get more sign-ups if we had the GOTA class at the field day site. So we have moved the GOTA class from the church to the field day site. Same time, 9:00 a.m. on Saturday morning. And we have Pete Harris and Jim Tittle are our instructors for the GOTA HF sessions. So Pete, would you give us a quick explanation of what you'll be covering?
Sure. And we urge folks from the club to come and come for the class for both the one I'm going to be conducting and the one that Jim Tittle is going to be conducting. So mine is going to start at around 9:00. We're both addressing getting on the air with HF radio. I'll be covering using a buddy pole antenna just for demonstration purposes. I'll be covering some general principles, some general antenna concepts that relates to half-wave dipoles and quarter-wave vertical antennas. We'll talk about and demonstrate some of the differences between the horizontal and vertical configurations. We will talk about how you estimate the length of a dipole antenna, horizontal and quarter-wave vertical. We'll demonstrate how to use an SWR meter to tune up the antenna for resonance. We'll talk a little bit about the use of coils to substitute for necessary physical length of an antenna. We'll talk a little bit about different radiation patterns relative to the height of the antenna off the ground. And we'll look at theoretical ideals versus real-world compromises when you really do it, and a bunch of other stuff. That's just some highlights of what we're going to do. That session starts at 9:00. And I'll let Jim talk a little bit about his session, which my session will be approximately an hour and a quarter to an hour and a half. Okay, I'll let Jim Tittle go on from there.
Okay, all right. Well, I was pretty much going to take these people on a crash course of what to do when they get in front of a radio, and the best thing to do is listen, 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 And then after that, maybe get a couple of them to actually start talking on the air. So we'll have, hopefully I'll have a 40-meter station up and running, and we'll have plenty of people to talk to on the air. So that's the plan here. I'm not sure how long it's going to go, but we'll keep everybody entertained, I'm sure about that.
Well, Pete, I think this is what you had.
Yes, that's a summary of things that I plan on doing.
Very nice.
I just emphasize, this is originally set up for people who took the general license prep class, but it's open to all members of the club. I mean, in fact, it's open to the public since this is a public event. So we're not just speaking to people who took the recent general class. We're speaking to everybody. Yes, that is the flyer, Larry.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, this is also apply for people that are just getting back into amateur radio and that have been off air for a while. It'd be a good refresher on getting on the air and making contacts and even using a radio and coordinating the push to talk button on the microphone. So this class will apply to all different kinds of people from all different backgrounds and experience levels. Jim and Pete are experienced enough that if you show up, you're bound to learn one or two things that you haven't known before because of their experience with ham radio. So I encourage everyone. It'll be kind of crowded, but if everyone shows up, that'll be great. So I encourage you to give it a second thought about showing up, and it will help you to get back into the swing of things, so to speak, in ham radio. Okay, are there any questions on Jim or Pete's summaries of what they're going to be presenting for GOTA? Okay. Are there any questions on any portion of Field Day?
Yes, I have one.
Go ahead.
I'm looking for somebody with a slingshot.
Do you have an enemy?
No.
Dick waved his hand.
I have one. Yeah, I have a slingshot tennis ball thing that you can send a leader over a tree or whatever you need.
We've got some light standards outside that will be, that Jim wants to put a line over two of them, or at least two of them.
I thought I heard Wiley say he had one too.
Okay, well, I'll entertain the use of one on Friday afternoon if I can.
Okay, count on me. I'll bring it by. I'll be by there Friday afternoon, and it's yours to use if you need it.
Thank you, Dick. Appreciate your volunteering that.
That's great, Dick.
Any other offerings or questions? Okay, thank you, and look forward to seeing everyone next Saturday, week from tomorrow, or actually next Friday, a week from tonight. We'll be setting up. Back to you, Larry.
All right, well, back to general membership. So we got a few minutes before we start our short business section of this meeting. So anything anybody wants to add? Oh, when you say run for pizzas, can we drive, or do we have to actually run? All right. Is driving to get it okay, or is it required to do a little running? Did we lose Larry?
Larry's here. I didn't understand the question, Larry.
I was being a little facetious, but you said something.
I understand the facetious part, but I didn't catch the words that emphasize your facetiousness, so please repeat.
Okay. You said you need somebody to run for pizzas. And I'm asking, is it okay if we would to drive for pizzas, or is it required that we actually run?
That would
okay. I catch all the words now. Yes, you may run, but by the time you get back, the pizza may be cold and useless. So if you plan to run for the pizza, you might bring something to keep it warm.
All right.
Like put it inside your shirt or something like that.
Well, thank you. I think you just passed the 80-year-old cognitive test.
Yeah.
And my son got a nice chuckle out of that too. Thank you. Yeah, no, you're not sorry. I know you. You're not sorry.
Well, I think that's great. Because I was going to say you don't look a day over 85, but.
And my son got a chuckle out of that too. You're really making a lot of points here tonight, Larry.
Yeah, I don't know. 2 sips of coffee, and I'm already loaded.
Whoa.
So, well, anybody, Dave, you said you were doing some stuff on 6 meters today and not very successful. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, today was pretty bad, but had some success recently. Last Friday, I worked a guy in Vermont on 6 meters, and a couple days ago, he confirmed on Logbook of the World, so that completed worked all states on 6 meters.
Oh, great!
Wow, fantastic.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
That only took me 15 years to complete.
And so what are you going to do when Puerto Rico becomes a state? You're going to have to be scrambling.
Well, Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia and what else is?
What do you use for an antenna?
Lately, mostly I use a Moxon, PAR Moxon, but lately I've been using a three element M squared at the magnificent height of 15 feet. But I've had some success with that. So yeah, I was happy with that. That gives me 8 bands now where I have worked all states. That's all the bands that I use, and I've got them all now.
Ooh, thank you.
I think that's a tremendous achievement. That's tremendous.
Yeah.
So where do you go from here, Dave, if you worked all states on all bands?
Well, the other thing that people do is go for what's called the Fred Fish Award, and that's working all of the grid squares in the 48 states. And I now have I need 45 more to complete the 488 grid squares. So I got over 90% of them. I'm still working at them. I picked up 3 this year so far. Going a little slow, but I never know when you're going to have that big opening.
Pete's got a picture up there on his screen of a U.S. map.
But that's the sections.
That's the section map.
Squares.
Ah, sorry about that.
That's okay. I couldn't see 488 little icons there. I said, wait, that's not quite.
No.
Not quite right.
That's right.
Anyway, this time of year, I spend pretty much all my time on 6 meters. That'll go into mid to late August. This isn't a great time for HF, but 6 meters, I found that a fun band.
Dave, this is Pete. I was playing around at our local neighborhood park the other day with my pole, and I was getting all kinds of good signals on 20 meters, but nothing at all on 15 meters. And I have very little experience with 15 meters. Do you have experience with 15? Is it totally dead, or did I just hit it wrong, or did I not tune up my antenna properly?
No, 15 isn't dead. It's been moribund, I suppose. But during the contest, there's a fair amount of activity on 15 meters, especially over DX contests. Much of it is across the equator, transequatorial propagation, getting into Argentina, and, Chile, New Zealand, Australia, those kinds of places.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, 6 meters, that's one thing that really shocked me. Less than 2 weeks ago, I was calling CQ, and a guy from Ukraine answered me.
Wow.
At first, I thought it was a false decode on FT8. I answered him. I sent him a signal report, but then I never heard him again. I sent it 3 times and then gave up. But later, I went to EQSL, and he actually QSL'd the contact. I went, whoa, that was the real thing.
Wow.
I didn't confirm it. All I got from him was the signal report, so it was not, to my mind, a complete contact. But still, I thought that was pretty amazing. He actually did get the signal report that I sent to him. So I was surprised and a little bit shocked. But anyway, that's why they call it the magic band.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, P15 won't come alive. You know, once the sunspots start picking up, things are going to start happening. But currently, if 15's not alive, you might check 10. If you hear some signals on 10, then you know that 15 is probably active. But I haven't heard any signals on 10 in a long time. 15 a little more frequently, and 20, of course, all the time. The sunspots are picking up. They're getting there, but they're not quite up to the levels where 10 meters is open every day.
Oh no, the 10 meters isn't necessarily open every day, but it's open a fair amount. I had a phone contact. Let's see, on Tuesday night, I was going to be on K6 X-Ray Charlie's, Ron Luttinger's net, and turned out that Ron was off in Bodega Bay at the time. So I was hearing some competition from some other stations in the LA area, or actually this is Riverside. Riverside Amateur Radio Club was having their net on our local net frequency, 28420. So one of the guys decided to shut down the net and just went up about 10 kilohertz. And I called him, and we had little chats and completed that one. So that was definitely a sporadic E contact. And this is the time of the year for sporadic E propagation. That affects both 6 meters and 10 meters.
And the other thing you can do is tune to the Stanford or the NCDF international beacons. There's beacons set up on 20 on all the bands from 20 to 10 megahertz. They're located all over the world, and if you can hear one of the beacons, it's likely that you have a path to that part of the world.
Interesting.
So what is it? Are they sending out a Morse code, Wiley? What kind of signal do they send?
It sends a Morse code ID. There's a Wikipedia page and also a page on the, I'll post it to the chat.
Yeah, I have
also software you can download that will automatically control your receiver and tune to the beacons. You know, you can listen to the beacon of your choice. The beacons rotate through all the bands every 130 seconds or so, 150 seconds or so. And if you want to listen to a specific band, there's software that can control your receiver and tune your receiver to the appropriate band for that particular time slot.
Yeah, I've got the Android app for that. And it shows when all the beacons fire off.
Right.
And rotate.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. The Morse code is a, CQ beacon and a call sign, so it's easy to copy.
Well, I see we just reached 7 o'clock. I would like to call our general membership meeting to order for June. I'm going to do a quick screen share here, and I'm glad to hear that the recording is in progress. and I will share the agenda so you have an idea of the agenda. Should it come up? Did it come up or no?
Roger.
Yes.
Roger.
Yes.
Yeah, for sometimes the monitors got the green outline. This time I don't see the green outline, so that's just why I had to ask. So anyway, I want to welcome everybody to our general membership meeting. I'm looking at the participants list now. We've got 37 people at this point who've joined us, so that's really, really good. Any new members that have just joined the club and this is maybe their first or their second club meeting? If just wave your hand so we can acknowledge you. Bill, how you doing? Well, it's good to have you here, Bill.
I'm doing well.
Very good, very good. I forget where you are, where you live, Bill. What city?
Antioch.
Antioch. Okay. Because sometimes we have people from now with Zoom, seems like all over the country, and so it's kind of good to know where people are coming from. Any other new members? All right. So when we meet in person, Bill, we can do the official shake your hand and give you the full welcome. So any visitors? Just not necessarily a member, but heard about the club. Somebody sent you a Zoom link and you decided to join for this evening?
We got a thumbs up from Bill, KN6LZZ. Not on video.
I don't see, well.
And then he put it down.
There it is. Hey, welcome, welcome.
Bill.
Hello, thanks.
Hi, Bill. Hey, I saw a cartoon the other day of the post-COVID Zoom meetings, and in this cartoon, they were hauling away the bookcase behind the speaker, putting it back to real life. Now I know during this time of being pandemically sequestered, I'm sure you've had an opportunity to read every single one of those books that's behind you.
Sure have.
Oh, that's great. Hope you enjoyed Shakespeare's sonnets because they were tough. Okay, so even his plays to me were always tough. So, well, welcome. Glad to have you here. We got this is a double billing tonight. We got two bills. Bill, a visitor, KN6LZZ, and Bill, KI6 Hotel Charlie Alpha. So good to have you. Good to have you. Want to encourage everybody to attend the board meeting if you like. That's where the real business portion of the club, if you will, the powerhouse of the club as far as business is concerned, is at our board meeting. I have it posted here as July the 12th. That's because of the July 4th holiday. So we push it out 1 week to accommodate that holiday. So, which reminds me, tell me, nobody's told me yet, is tomorrow a holiday or not? I don't know. Is tomorrow a holiday? Is tomorrow?
Today, today is the national holiday.
Yeah, I think they made it today.
Oh, Juneteenth is today?
Well, because it's a Friday.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, because it's actually supposed to fall on a Saturday, right?
It's supposed to be on the 19th, but they made it today, and they voted it in yesterday.
All right, all right. Just can't keep track of all this stuff, right? So.
Well, luckily you're not HR payroll.
Well, and also when you're retired, I don't care. Unless I was traveling. So sometimes it gets to be when you're retired, every day comes to be the same as every other day in a way. So anyway, I want to encourage you to attend board meetings. You're certainly welcome. I do send that out to the whole club through the groups.io. And that's how we advertise the club. And for the remainder of the year, we'll just be holding Zoom. We'll just be holding the board meetings via Zoom. All right. Okay, so I think we will jump down to the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. I have heard, are there any objections to approving the minutes from the last club meeting? Hearing none voiced, we will consider them to be approved. And thank you, Brian, for taking such good minutes. We appreciate it. Officers report. Well, you probably saw in my the latest on the web page there. I have periodically been doing a COVID notes section, and I've been working with Mike and 6JGA on that. And I think I put the last one up yesterday that I am planning to put, and I'm calling it the COVID-19 parentheses final note. So pretty much just recommends everybody check out the Contra Costa Health Department, the guidelines as far as the removal of which restrictions and which restrictions may still be in place. And because of those guidelines, we are hoping that next July, when we meet again for our general membership meeting, that we will meet in person at our Savior Lutheran Church in Lafayette. And we're also hoping that we're going to be able to do a Zoom option for those who would prefer to join us by Zoom. It'll be I always call it a work in progress, progress, if you will, as to how good that Zoom is going to be. Obviously, it can't be as, I think, as vibrant as it is right now, when we're really sitting right in front of our computers or telephone. But we'll try to see what we can do to make it as good as we can at the time. But like I say, it'll probably improve with time. Excuse me.
It's going to be excellent, Larry.
That's what I meant. But you know what? We try to improve on excellency, Mike.
Yes.
Try to improve on excellency. So let me get another drink of coffee here.
Hey, Larry, your calendar popped up there for some reason.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. You know, it's one of those Microsoft run in the background. I want to help you out and screw you up. You know what I mean? You know, that email reminder pops up and says something like, you know what? No, never mind. You know what I mean. So that's all the officer's report that I have for myself as president. Jan, KM6NFC, he is in Prague, Republic of Czechoslovakia. So he obviously is not going to be able to join us this evening. I will ask Brian, do you have anything that you would like to provide to the group tonight?
Nothing to report tonight, Larry.
Kathy, I think you would like some things, and I do have a couple of, at least I had them at one time. Let me see if I can't find what I did.
Yeah, if you can just put the summary up, the summary report.
Yeah, let me.
Patrick had his hand up for a moment.
Oh, did he? Which? In Georgia?
Yeah.
Georgia, yes. Patrick.
Thank you very much for considering continuing the Zoom option. I enjoy staying active in the club. I just wanted to say thank you guys for considering that.
Yeah, we understand that for a lot of people, we obviously really discovered this in our licensing courses, that we were having people that were coming from all over the country. So it's good to have you with us, Patrick. Let me bring this up here. Give me a second. Well, it looked good to begin with.
There you go.
I want to get at least points for getting it partly right. Okay, here we are.
That's the April one. We want the May one. Do you?
Multiply the numbers by 1.2. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have to dig. I'd have to dig for that one. I'm sorry. I'll have to dig in my files.
Then I can just read some numbers.
All right. But you go ahead, and I'll see if I can't find something here.
Okay. So our MDARC checking account, we had income of $378.59. We had expenses of $1,362.97.
leaving us just for the this month a deficit of $984.38. But our balance as of in the checking account as of the end of May is $41,709.63. So between our checking account and the savings account, we have $70,069.28. Our equipment self-insurance fund is $58,189.08. And the Pacificon balance is $14,373.09. So the total assets for MDARC is $142,631.45. I know that's a lot of numbers. Does anybody have any questions?
Can you read it back?
Sure.
Any questions for Kathy? All right, thank you, Kathy. I don't know. I couldn't find the June one.
That's okay.
What we had before. I mean the May one we had at the board meeting, but I think we covered the bases. So all right, very good. So let me pull up our agenda again. I think we're going to go to Ron, emergency coordinator.
Well, as far as I know, everything's happy. I haven't heard any complaints. Haven't heard much conflicts. Every once in a while, you know, people will double and triple up, but that's normal. So as far as I know, we're happy.
All right, sounds good. Any questions for Ron? Okay, I think that takes care of it on the committee reports. We did have a report from Mr. Loomer earlier, but I think, Larry, since maybe some people have just recently joined, you might want to just go over very quickly maybe the I would say the program and schedule, and then the very top volunteer needs that you might have.
Okay. Again, we'll be located at Olympic High School at 2730 Salvio Street in Concord. The official time for contesting is 11 a.m. Saturday, June 26th to 11 a.m. Sunday, June 27th. But we'll be setting up Friday, June 25th at 1:30 p.m. and start taking down and cleaning up after 11 a.m. on Sunday. We're planning for a barbecue at 6 o'clock on Saturday evening. You will need to RSVP to me at my email address to sign up for the barbecue. We're requiring a sign up so that we have enough food for everyone that signed up. My email address is LARY, same word, LOOMER, at yahoo.com. And next Monday is the deadline for RSVPing to me for the barbecue. As far as volunteers are concerned, we have 2 volunteers for food handling, but we'd like at least 2 more for setting up, running around and getting the food, as Larry questioned earlier. Also setting up the food and making sure we have the right number of plates and so on, and keeping the food cool when it's not being served. We have a Morse code booth, so to speak, where the visitors will write their names in Morse code and then send it with a code sending key. Jim Tittle will have the MDARC 1 van available, and he'll be demonstrating our amateur television setup inside the van. And we need a greeter to welcome people to Field Day site and set a visitor's log and provide public information. That would be 1 person total. We'll be doing license testing at 1 o'clock, and all VEs that are on hand will be welcome to oversee the work and or sign up on the participation sheet that goes to ARRL. Hams will be demonstrating their own equipment and their own radios. Like Pete Harris will have his buddy pole and will be doing an extension of his Goda class, which will start at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. Jim Tittle will also be doing the Goda class as soon as Pete finishes his session. So that'll be a morning activity. And multiple volunteers will be needed to deliver, set up, and take down tables and pop-ups. So anytime that you have a free moment, we'd love to have you come down and help with a setup on Friday afternoon and with a takedown on Sunday afternoon. I think that's about the summary, Larry. Are there any questions from anybody that after this second review of the field day activities? Okay.
Have not heard any.
Okay.
I think, thank you, Larry. I'm going to double back on looking at the committee reports. I'm going to ask for a report on Pacificon. Mike, I see that you may be the representative for the Pacificon committee this evening.
Pacificon is definitely a go. We are taking reservations. In fact, I heard earlier today that we already have over 100 reservations, even though we only opened it up on, what was that, Wednesday? Yes, or Wednesday morning. And the hotel is open for reservations as well. So get your cards and letters in, folks. We will be fleshing out the website as we get confirmation of speakers and presentations and so forth.
So Mike, speak a little bit to what I had read earlier, because I did make my reservation at the hotel, and all you're doing is all you're told is you're getting a room, right? You don't have any options for the room.
Well, yeah. With most hotels, if you want, like I say, a king bed or 2 double beds, whatever, you can request that in your reservation. They cannot guarantee it, but you can certainly put in the request. For some reason now, the entire Marriott system has removed that option to request it on the website. So if you want to request an accessible room or double beds or something like that, go ahead and make your reservation on the website and then call the hotel front desk and ask them for the kind of bed or room you need, and they can add that into your reservation as a request. And they will certainly grant it when you check in if they have it available at the time.
Right, so that's the issue, is that things may book up quicker than they think on any particular floor, so you may have to compromise, but
yeah. So the earlier you can get there, the better the chances of you getting what you want.
Right, so Ron, even after you make a reservation, you want to be at the facility early.
I got it. So Ron, if I get there and I go to my room and I have a straw pallet there, I'm moving in with you.
Probably not. No, they'll take care of you. We've had good,
yeah,
I'm concerned, they take care of us, but they do need a little notice and so forth. So when you're actually there, you'll be assured of the room that they assign you.
And I'm part of that. Was it Bonvoy? Is that the membership program that they have? Yeah, I'm a member of that. So, all right.
On Pacificon.
Thank you.
Oh, Larry, that means we get to use your card for all of our rooms?
Yeah, of course. I guess. I don't know. As long as I get the rewards points, huh? So, all right. I don't have anything for unfinished business. Is there any new business that needs to be brought up for the good of the order that somebody would like to present? All right. So, hearing none, I think we're right on target to move into tonight's speaker. I had a quick chance to take a look, Jim, at the bio for you, and I got to admit it's pretty impressive. It is on the web page. I don't know if I'm not going to pull it up. I don't think. Oops, almost did, but so it's very impressive. So Jim, usually it's Jan who does this presentation. does this introduction of our speaker, but I think that falls to me this evening. So, look, your dog is the most well-trained dog I've ever seen. I bet you told that dog stay, and you probably told it to the dog yesterday, and it hasn't moved since.
No.
So tell us about your dog, and then take it away.
All right. Well, we were talking about dogs just amongst members there before the meeting started, and so I thought I'd pull up. This is a Puli, P-U-L-I. Known, it's about a medium-sized dog, about 18 inches at the shoulder, about.
Jim, we lost your audio. Did you click the switch on your mic?
Thank you for telling me. Yeah, it's a funny switch right on the.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got exactly the same problem. I know exactly what's happened.
Yeah, okay. So the breed forms dreadlocks, and they can be quite long and pretty distinctive. They're a Herden breed and one Hungarian breed, and from what I can tell, a working Puli is not going to have a coat like this. The coat will get shredded on the bushes and so forth. So this is a show dog here. Anyway, in fact, I didn't want to leave that up there, but because we had been talking about dogs first, I thought I'd bring that up.
I thought it was a melted chocolate dog.
There you go. So, all right. So I'm going to start my presentation, and what we're talking about is MDARC's digital voice repeater, and some changes that are underway. And let me just go to share screen, and all right. So everybody able to see that? Hopefully.
Yes, we.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So, I will talk about myself real briefly, not this whole slide, but it's not clear whether I really got my first license in 1958 or 1959 because it has been physically lost. It's been my first license has been physically lost, and it's either 58 or 59 that I became KN0ZXU back when novices got an N after the first letter. And I was pretty active all through high school, and even at college we had a great club, good equipment and wonderful antennas, but then I went out into the workforce and just didn't renew my license, and it took until 2003 for me to retest, get back into ham radio, and I've been active ever since.
We lost your audio again, John. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you really?
No, I can hear him fine.
Yeah, we hear him.
Okay, good.
Oh, it's me then.
All right. So the rest of it is interesting. I was originally a programmer and eventually became a technical manager at Chevron, and so I'm really into information technology. I'm also into dogs, as we've been talking about. I'm currently president of the Puli Club of America, which is the American Kennel Club breed club for this breed, the Puli breed. I'm also admin for our W6CX Digital Voice Gateway, and I do the website for my son's language school in Germany, and some other sites. And I try to stay technically current, but as everyone knows, you can't do that. You got to pick and choose. Oops. I do want to point out that I'm not fluent in German, but I can carry on conversations. It's just that sometimes I stumble, and I keep trying to work on that. So I take 2 classes a week. So that's the person, the me. So what we're going to talk about today is why, first of all, why we're talking about these changes in digital voice for MDARC, and a little bit background about digital voice, and then the changes themselves, and then hopefully a little Q&A. Well, why digital voice? We have a digital voice repeater. It's W6CX D-Star repeater. It's pretty busy. It's really quite good. Jim Simmons, 6 or 8 months ago, had me pull kind of the stats on usage, and I was surprised that it was getting more use than I really realized. Of course, we have just a fabulous location on South Peak with a great footprint, and so there's a lot of good stuff there. But what's changing in the area is there's a lot of digital voice users who use the DMR protocol, and last year on North Peak, the K6MDD DMR repeater stopped being a DMR repeater, and so we have some people who, they get along with their hotspots and things, but the question is there anything we can do for our club members who have DMR radios, and of course other users who might become club members? So the technical committee has decided to convert our D-Star repeater to a dual mode, if you will, DMR repeater and D-Star repeater. And we're going to stop calling it the D-Star repeater and call it a DV repeater, digital voice repeater. So that's what I'm really here to talk about. This is kind of a fundamental, and I can go real quickly about it, but what's the big deal about digital voice? Well, FCC in other services is mandating or certainly encouraging the move to narrow band, and this is mostly to take up less bandwidth for the various users. Digital voice modes use no more than 12.5 kilohertz, and some, like D-Star, use 6.25. And various analog FM repeaters will use almost double that. So if you're involved in frequency coordination in an area, the more narrow band repeaters you have, the more you can fit into a certain portion of the spectrum. Digital voice also has pretty clear, quiet audio. I have to admit that when I first heard it back in, let's say, 2007, it sounded a little funny to me. And I would need someone else to tell me it now doesn't sound funny, so either my brain has come to accept this as the norm, or in fact, the technology has improved. Of course, it doesn't sound, if you will, as good as analog FM. It couldn't, because we're cramming so much more information into a narrow RF bandwidth. But it doesn't sound so funny to me anymore. I'd love to know what other people think. The good news is digital voice, whichever of the protocols, D-Star or DMR or something else, it does not include hiss or noise, even as the signal is weakened. And although, to be real honest, it's very susceptible to multipath if it can bounce off some rock or hill or even possibly a building, and two signals arrive out of phase. That can be a messy thing. But other than that, digital voice is a great mode because as you get farther away from the repeater, it still sounds good. Eventually, when the signal gets too weak, that is too many bits, too many errors, the bit error rate goes up, then it just stops working. And then some extras is that because it's digital, along with the voice payload, you can have other text information like call signs, text messages, and more. So there's some neat things you can do with radios, where the radio, the little screen on the radio will show the name and the call sign of the person who's talking, that sort of thing. The other thing is that there's a lot of robust networking of connections of repeaters and conference servers. Now, this is not new. Echolink blazed the way, and it's still great. And in fact, MDARC has upgraded our analog FM Echolink setup, and so I'm not. There's no reason to think of it as a competition. I'm just saying that that digital voice now has many choices where you can connect into talk groups, reflectors, or rooms, depending on which of the protocols you're using. And you can even link bridges to bridges. And there are some people who are now linking, going through a mode conversion bridge. So you come in on DSTART and come out on DMR as an example. The other thing is there's a lot of active third-party development and just really some really superb programmers who their day job is high-end information technology programming, network level usually, and at the same time, most of these guys are doing the ham stuff for free, and it's all open source. So the modes that are most actively used are DSTAR, which we have, DMR, C4FM or Fusion from Yaesu, P25, which is kind of a public service thing, and NXDN, which is a commercial but available to hams. And I'm not going to go through this whole thing. The slides will be available, made available, so you people, if you really want to dig, but point out that DSTAR kind of started to become a big deal in the middle of the first decade of the 2000s, and what I write here, it was good. That is, it eventually worked, and I guess what I'm really saying is it was kind of a bumpy start, but they did get it, and repeaters weren't connected at first and so forth, and now DSTAR has all these protocols for connecting to each other. You could call them conference servers or reflectors, whatever you want. And I've always said that the fun of digital voice is in the network, and I still believe that. People also can do home hotspots, which are really just little simplex repeaters running typically 10 milliwatts, and these things nowadays are multi-mode and could do whether you have a DSTAR radio or a DMR radio or a Yaesu Fusion radio or something else. So all these right now have been kind of one mode at a time. So yeah, this is right. So I have to stop, and this is a really important slide as far as I'm concerned, where you get digital voice advocates who get, oh, well, you know, our job, what we want to do is replace analog. Well, first of all, you can't, you won't. I believe firmly that digital voice will never replace analog FM. First of all, many people will prefer analog, and that's just that's their right. Modes also very rarely actually go away. I mean, AM has not gone away. I can still find AM nets. Of course, CW has not gone away. You could argue it's a little bit more popular now that it's not required. And most hams have analog gear, so it is possible. Just if nothing else, because of narrowbanding issues, that someday digital voice on VHF and UHF could become more used than analog. There's no way to prove that, except be a time traveler. But it doesn't matter. The whole point is, digital, in my opinion, digital voice is yet another mode, and for some it'll appeal, and some it won't. Real quickly, if you've been to any of my PacificCon presentations on DSTAR, this is just a block diagram where, you convert analog to digital, you compress it with these AMBE chips from a company called DVSI, and generate tones and modulate it out, and then when it comes back, you get it back from tones to digital data, uncompress it, decompress it, and out comes the voice. Very simple. It isn't underneath the hood, of course, but yet it's important to realize there's no magic here. It's still just tones being modulated onto an FM signal. So what is this thing, multi-mode digital voice modem? In 2015, and the reason why I bring it up is because we're going to have one on our our second VHF repeater. In 2015, the author of a bunch of open source software for hams, his name is Jonathan G4KLX, formed a vision of hardware and software that could deal with all of the major digital voice modes, and he called it multi-mode. And by the way, in 2018, he came to PacificCon and made a presentation about what he was doing. So some of you may have had a chance to see him. He's an incredible guy. Where when you meet him, you don't realize how smart he is, but then you start to see everything he's accomplished. It's just amazing. I mean, he does sound smart, but he doesn't try to overwhelm people, is what I'm trying to say. As the technology evolved, other people started taking these ideas and actually implementing them. So we've had Don WB5VKU from Los Angeles, who has also presented here at PacificCon. He converted his repeater to multi-mode several years ago, and I'm going to talk about that more. And then pretty soon you had multi-mode hotspots, modems, and now the stuff is really settled down and it's stable. And what's interesting about it is you can buy a hotspot for your house, little 10 milliwatt thing that will work around the house and the yard, and it'll if you have a D-Star radio, you can use it to talk through the network to other people. Then you can decide to get a DMR radio, it'll work with that too. And I have 3 digital voice types of radios. I wouldn't want to count how many radios I actually have, but I have DMR, D-Star, and Fusion. What's notable and obvious is that you can only talk one mode at a time. And if your radio or your repeater is busy with one mode and you have a radio for the other mode, if you look at the radio, you'll see that the repeater is busy, but you won't be able to hear anything. And that's kind of the one thing that people always question. I'll talk about that a little bit more. So the most used DV modes are still D-Star and DMR. Yaesu System Fusion is growing fast. One of our club members, Tim Barrett, K6BIV, has put up on North Peak. He's converted K6 MDD repeater to Yaesu System Fusion, which is an excellent mode. And then P25 is often used by public safety. And what happens is people in the government or public safety who are familiar with P25 often then want to use it in their ham work, and it's kind of interesting. So just so you know, there's more out there than just D-Star and DMR. But why multi-mode for repeaters? Well, repeaters are scarce resources. I mean, we are so terribly fortunate to be up on top of Mount Diablo with our 2 repeaters, VHF repeaters. And it's getting to be in some larger areas, it's hard to get a coordination, especially on VHS, on 2 meters. And so, you can actually get more activity out of the few frequency pairs you can get. It is true also that some repeaters are underutilized, but mainly for people who have these different modes, such as right now, if you're a DMR user and you want want to be on 2 meters, you don't have a repeater in the San Ramon Valley right now. In southern down towards the peninsula you do, but I'm just saying up here, not so much. So multi-mode can help the fans of these different modes. And for people with these little hotspots, and I have a photo up in the upper right, kind of interesting. 10 years ago, the first GMSK modems for D-Star only came out, and I actually had a little business, and I mean, it's better to call it tiny business, but I was selling the GMSK modems, and I did really until 2016 when it became possible that it became obvious that multi-mode modems were going to take over, and the engineer I was working with wasn't ready to design a multi-mode modem. So let's see. What's neat about these new little hotspots is because they can do all the modes, you can buy one type of radio. Let's say you buy a D-Star radio and you buy one of these multi-modes and you just turn on D-Star only. And then next year you decide to buy a DMR radio, then you can turn on DMR as well as D-Star. And then you can talk to D-Star reflectors and you can talk to DMR talk groups. So it's kind of neat. Some of us has multiple hotspots at home, one for each mode, and I'm not as crazy as some really. I know people have like a hotspot at one end of the house and another hotspot at the other end, and I don't get it. But the key here is that a multi-mode hotspot doesn't have to be multi-mode. You can just configure it for your favorite mode, and then later you might decide to get another radio. So how did the repeaters work? Well, it's pretty simple. Admins enable more than one DV mode, and when there's no traffic, the repeater is sitting there waiting patiently, and when it receives a signal, it checks which mode is it, and then it switches to that mode and repeats it out in what came in. It repeats out that, and so that mode is now kind of captured briefly the repeater. And if you have for example, a D-Star QSO, when you let up on push to talk, the repeater is going to wait and expect only a DMR, a D-Star response, and so that keeps another mode from interrupting and taking over or hijacking a QSO. Now the admin can adjust this mode hang time. I believe I've set it, I'm going to be setting it for 20 seconds. And if it turns out people don't like that, we can up it or down it. But the key here is users learn to glance at their radio and to see if the repeater's busy before you hit PTT. And that's the only difference in operations, because up until multi-mode, you didn't have to look at the radio to see if it was okay to transmit. You could just, if you didn't hear somebody talking, you could hit push to talk. Now you have to kind of make sure that some other mode doesn't have it. It just becomes a new habit, and I'll talk more about that later. When the current mode stops being active, the repeater goes back to listening for all modes. So that's multi-mode. That's the whole deal right there. I do want to talk about hotspots because they are a lot of fun, and I don't sell them. I get nothing out of it, but people just should know that they're out there. Up in the top left is a multi-mode hotspot designed by KI6ZUM in Southern California, and he's made presentations at PacificCon a number of times, and he has a really fine business, and he sells his products through HRO, Ham Radio Outlet. And some of you may know the Oakland store closed, but they're opening one in Sacramento. And for many of us, it's not all that bad a drive. So I'm planning to go over. I don't know if their actually doors are open, but I know they're close. So a tip on the right is a really fine modem board. It's not in a case or anything, but it's made by a guy in Texas, N5BOC, and he has some. I have one of his also, and it has some excellent work. So a typical hotspot just has a little modem, and on top of that modem, on the board is a little 10 milliwatt radio chip, and then you'll have a couple of little small antennas, and you plug that board into a Raspberry Pi, either directly onto it or using a USB cable, depending on which one you buy. Often we put them into little enclosures, and many times people install a little screen. It turns out they look really neat the first time, but then when you're actually using them, you don't look at them very often. They make two kinds, one with a single radio chip and one with two. Simplex is sufficient for all modes, but DMR benefits because you can have two simultaneous talk groups going, or at home you could be monitoring two talk groups simultaneously. But you could actually have, you and your wife, if you're both hams, you could both use the same hotspot with two separate. She could be on talk group 1 and you could be on talk group 2. DMR's got some really interesting features. So I did talk earlier about how one of the earlier multi-mode repeaters on the West Coast was a repeater, the K6 WB5EKU put up, and he's a buddy of mine. I met him over the radio, but we see each other, and the four of us, his wife and him and he and my wife and I will go out to dinner when we can, when we're in the region, so that got me interested in multi-mode big time. And then recently, club member Tim, KA6BIV, donated to the club a DMR repeater. And the plan is this repeater will be configured for analog mode and then used with an external controller, MMDVM controller. And the system will be configured to do both D-Star and DMR, and it in effect replaces our 10-year-old ICOM D-Star repeater. So for D-Star users, they'll continue to have a D-Star repeater. It's just we're hoping to have a few more users during the quiet times, and they could be DMR users. We think our users will benefit, and that we think it has the capacity to handle more traffic, if you will. And where we are is configuring hardware on the bench. I would have thought it would have been done about 2 or 3 months ago, but I had some interruptions. I had a little visit to the hospital, unexpected. Luckily, I'm fully recovered and back in business, but that set back this project. And then my wife and I got a new puppy, and then we got another new puppy. And it turns out puppies are more complicated than multi-mode. On the left is the first new puppy. It's a Lautchen if you are an American. If you're a German, you'd say Löwchen, which means little lion dog. And on the right is my Puli puppy, and I've already talked about that breed. This is when I picked him up from his breeder in Pennsylvania, and he was 12 weeks old. He's now 15 weeks. So that was the disruption or distraction from the multi-mode project. So what is this thing? You start with a modem. We've talked about it a lot. A Pi, a Raspberry Pi, can be orange or something, but we're using the Raspberry Pi version. It's loaded with software that includes the G4KLX MMDVM software. It's got to plug into something that functions like an analog transmitter and receiver, basically 2 radios, and if you want a repeater, and it must be able to deliver flat audio from the receiver and inject flat audio into the transmitter. And then, of course, you need everything else, duplexer, transmission lines, tower, and so forth. So that's an MMDVM repeater. It's much like an analog FM repeater, but with a modem and a computer sitting there. So my friend in Los Angeles got this system up, and maybe just let me go forward one more slide. This is his computer, the tower where he's installed K6PUW, and he has a wonderful footprint into the LA basin and beyond. It's really a great footprint, and he's enabled D-Star, DMR, Yaesu Fusion, and P25. And I put up his website for him, and he has a dashboard, and I can just look at his dashboard anytime, and he gets a lot of Fusion and P25, not as much D-Star and not as much DMR, but all four modes are used by users in the greater LA area. So it's a really interesting experiment, in my opinion. And what we learned, what he learned and I've learned from him, is that you want to make sure users know to check the repeater if the repeater is busy before keying up. As I said earlier, if it's just because you don't hear anything coming out of your radio doesn't mean another mode is not using it. And it turns out that his users quickly figured that out, and there's been really no conflict there. Hang time is important to make sure that when a new mode doesn't come along and hijack the current QSO, whatever mode it's in. And the whole idea is once a QSO starts, you want to let people continue that QSO. You don't want to connect to a really busy gateway. You don't want to connect to a reflector that is busy all the time, because then that mode just takes over the whole repeater. So for example, we have our D-Star repeater connected to reflector 14 Charlie based in Nevada, and you can often find someone to talk to, but it is not non-stop talking. I think that's preferable than a really, really busy. If any of you are into D-Star, reflector 1 Charlie is the busiest, but reflector 30 Charlie is close behind. And it's fun to, if you ever want to give a demo when you have a D-Star radio, you want to connect into one of those two, because you'll for sure find someone to talk to. On the other hand, if you wouldn't want our repeater to be hooked to either of those guys, because it would just be nonstop chatter for people all over the world. So that's a real obvious learning. And then scheduled nets can be configured to be just a certain mode so that they cannot be interrupted in any way. So the question is, where do we go next? First of all, I've got to finish the configuration of the new setup. The repeater Tim donated is sitting next to me here on my desk, and I got D-Star working right away, and I have DMR mostly working, but it's got to be pretty close to perfect before you put it up on the hill. So I have more work to do. But once it goes up in the hill, then there'll be more information coming out, and I'm sure there'll be questions, and we'll all be happy to answer them. As far as looking down the line outside of MDARC, I see digital voice radios someday perhaps supporting more than one mode, a single radio, and I would have thought it would have happened by now, but hasn't. All of the things that make this digital voice work are, and this is true not only of ham digital voice modes, but military, commercial, they all use a proprietary codec from DVSI, and it doesn't cost an arm and a leg, but it's closed source. It's software that no one can see, and so there is a project that's been going on for a number of years, but they're getting closer to success. to have an open source codec that is free and will perform as well as this proprietary one. So I don't know if there'll be this M17 project is halfway interesting. We'll see, and maybe there will be radios, but in some ways, I'm not so interested in that kind of future. I'm more interested in the next few months, getting this guy on the air, allowing the people who have DMR radios and would like to be able to use them on 2 meters, and they live in the San Ramon Valley. I'd like to give them a repeater, and I think it'll fit with our D-Star usage. So I've thrown in a resources page, and when we publish the slides, you can take a look at this. No reason to write anything down now. And the question is, are there any questions?
Yeah, Jim, Mike in 6JGA here. I'm confused. How can an analog radio transmit digital signals?
It's magic, Mike. What happens is if this modem and the software that goes with it on the computer, what it does is it takes the digitized analog voice from the microphone, if you will, and digitizes it and then compresses it according to the protocol, wraps the headers and trailers around it, and now it's got a digital stream. The modem then converts this digital stream into tones, and you just basically it's almost like plugging it into the mic of an analog FM transmitter. Now, the reason why you can't actually do that is because most analog FM transmitters, there's audio filters that will cut off the bottom 300 hertz of your voice, because you don't need them for people hearing. But we're using the digital voice modes are using the spectrum from just above 0 up to I don't know, 3,500 something, and so at any rate, so basically, you can make it work if you take the output of that modem, which is again an audio signal with a bunch of tones, and they're going so fast it sounds like noise, and if you can inject them into the modulator of an analog FM radio, and make sure you bypass any audio filtering the radio might have, then out comes a digital voice protocol signal that can be decoded by these digital voice radios, and the opposite, of course, when you're receiving. So yeah.
We have a number of people with their hands up. Mike, M6MEW, looks like he's first.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Jim, I was wondering if the DMR side of this will have the basic same footprint as CX.
It'll have the same footprint as the CX D-Star repeater. Now, keep in mind that we are using the same antenna as the W6CX analog FM repeater.
Okay.
And for people for newbies, I'm still kind of blown away. The skill of our tech team, and in this case, I think Trevor had a lot to do with how this came out to be so good. But they have 2 repeaters using the same antenna, and they pump all those watts into the antenna, but none of them gets into the other radio that's on a different frequency. So it should be the same footprint.
Okay. The reason I'm asking, I'm out here in East County, and it becomes a problem sometimes out here.
Have you ever? You don't do D-Star, do you?
I don't do D-Star. I do DMR off of Hotspot, at
Right.
the moment. I was
Right.
using MDD, but
Right, right.
now I'm using a hotspot.
Well, I would think that if you could, you're saying you sometimes have some problems with the W6CX analog to me.
No, with DMR off the hill when I was using MDD.
Right. Well, he was on North Peak. I mean, I don't know his footprint, what that footprint was versus what ours will be, but you know, if you know anybody with a D-Star radio, it'd be fun to just try it out, or you just wait because when we go live, you know, you'll find out.
And I'll be right there.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Jim.
Thanks.
Okay, Keith, K6, ATI.
Great, thank you. And thank you for the nice presentation. I just wanted to ask, I was curious, what makes D-Star more susceptible to multi-path? You mentioned that earlier on in the presentation.
I am not the deep expert, but basically when they arrive at different times, the bit error rate of the poor received signal, it just goes high. And when it gets too high, it just can't make sense of it. They have all kinds of software algorithms to try to guess what if they have to ignore some bits because of a high bit error rate, they sometimes try to guess what the bits would have been, and it'll take you for a while. But my experience with that was I got a D-Star radio in 2007, and MDARC already had a D-Star. K6. I forget when that went up. At any rate, it turns out when I started using D-Star a lot in 2010, I could not talk. I don't know, 4 or 5 miles just south in East Danville, and strong signal. But what was happening was there was a big piece of granite in between the antenna and me, and so it would split, and the two versions would arrive at slightly different times, and I really didn't have very good coverage. They changed the antenna setup about 5 years ago, and now I have no problem. It's much better, but there was a time when multipath was just killing me.
Larry, KK6 QPE. You're switched off on your headset, Larry.
Can't hear you.
You're all lucky you can't hear me. Jim, on some of the latter slides that you had, you were talking about before you push to talk, you need to monitor what if the repeater's in use, but that if you were you would have to monitor, I guess, several different modes. Is that correct? Maybe you could help me on that.
Okay, yeah, maybe I didn't say that very well. The idea, let's imagine that just when we're using our regular high quality W6CX analog FM repeater, and let's say you wanted to call out, maybe call your call sign and see if anybody wants to talk to you, and let's say you had accidentally had the volume control turned all the way down, so you didn't hear anything, so you just call out. Well, what you're going to be doing if somebody else is in a QSO, you'll be doubling, and you'll probably screw things up for that QSO. So it's the same thing here, where you want to know if somebody is actually using the repeater right now. And how do you do that? Well, if it's a single mode like D-Star, you have a D-Star radio, either you hear somebody, or if you don't hear them, it must be the repeater must not be used right now. The problem with multi-mode is, what if there's a DMR QSO going on, you have a D-Star radio. So all we ask is, what will happen is your D-Star radio will not decode DMR, you will not hear anything. But if you look at the front panel of your radio, every radio has a kind of virtual S meter, some way of showing if there's a signal being received or not. And so you look at it and you say, oh, the repeater is busy right now. I can't hear anything, but I can see that the repeater is transmitting right now. So then you just wait until you realize that other mode that you can't decode is done, and then once it's free, you can use it. But no, you don't have to personally check different modes.
Well, it does seem to me though, is it really true that if I had an HT, that it's going to be able to, if I had a D star? Okay, I'll give you an example. My Kenwood was my D74, which has D star. So how would that work? I mean, how would I know that it was in use if somebody was on DMR, but I wanted to use D star? How am I going to know?
Well, of course, if they're using D star, and your volume is turned up, you'd hear it.
Right, but what about the DMR side?
But if let's say DMR QSO is going on, so your D74 and any of the other D star radios will show when something is being received from the repeater. And obviously, if the repeater is quiet and open and available, it won't show anything. That's what you want if you're about to pick it up and talk. But if somebody's in the middle of a QSO on the other mode, you'll just notice, oh, it's already busy. And we had that big discussion at the tech committee about this because, will people grab onto that? And all I can say is that the folks in Southern California figured it out that to just look at the radio before hitting push to talk. It didn't seem to cause any real problems, and people caught on, and it works.
Thank you.
Mike, can we go to?
Yeah, carrying on with that information there, Jim. My DMR radios now, if I were to key up with a conversation going on, all I get would be a red light and a beep.
Right.
Is that not the case with the dual digital?
No, the same thing would happen, but what DMR is a little different from all these other modes in that it's constantly talking back and forth, and the radio doesn't just go into transmit mode and transmit. It sends a real short message to the repeater, and if the repeater hears it and everything is copacetic, it sends back a talk permit tone or code, and then you find out that it's okay. And if it says, and you don't get that back, your radio has kind of an ugly beep sound usually, and then you know you can't go forward. That would happen if you did that while D-Star QSO was going on.
Okay, that was my ultimate question. It would work the same.
Yeah, it's just that you might cause a little interference to the D-Star QSO, but the DMR does it. Those are real short little transmissions. I mean, milliseconds. Yeah. So you might not do a lot of damage either. I just don't. I've never thought about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So all the hands that are up, is there anybody else? Oh, I see Mark waving. He's not using the Zoom hand. He's using his real hand.
I could use a Zoom hand.
Go ahead, Mark.
I want a discussion going the other way, since I only have a D-Star radio, and I don't get the go ahead and talk because I don't have that on D-Star. But what if my mistake keyed up? What would tell me? I take it nothing. And also, you said there's some hang time. How long is it going to hang on DMR? And how will I know it's clear, other than the carrier's clear, to put out a call on D-Star?
Good question, actually, because
that's the first thing I'm going to deal with. So it's a very good question.
Yeah. On your DMR your D-Star radio, I have too many D-Star radios, and they all have some way of showing signal strength of the received signal.
Yes, I fully understand that, and I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, so if it's busy and you key up, of course, you may screw up the DMR conversation, but nobody will hear you because the repeater is not going to repeat you. So the question is, well, how long is that hang time? we're going to start out with 20 seconds. And so that means once DMR, whichever mode, but we're talking about DMR right now, once DMR takes over, it gets to own that channel for up to 20 seconds after the last transmission. And that, in one way, seems like a long time. But on the other hand, you've had QSOs where there's a little pause before the person picks up and hits push to talk again. And what we don't want to do is have the other mode hijack the repeater when it's really just the middle of the QSO. So on the other hand, as people play with it, they might come up complain. They might say 20 seconds too long. Can you make it 15? And we'll be happy to experiment. I think go ahead.
Is there any way to know that from my D-Star radio other than having a stopwatch?
No.
That's what you're requiring me to do.
What people do is they kind of mentally count and then give it a call. And if it doesn't work, they'll just wait another few seconds and give it another call.
I understand that. I just wanted to know how I would tell. But my D-Star radio, other than the S meter on it, is not going to tell me what's going on.
No.
But a DMR radio does, apparently.
Well, only it doesn't tell you when the repeater's hang time has expired. But if you try and let's say the repeater is still in D-Star mode, and you've got this DMR radio, if you try, it will just beep at you, kind of an ugly, on my radios, it's just an ugly beep sound. And it's just telling me back off and wait. So,
okay, that's all I want to know. And
yeah.
Of course, I'll know this when I first try it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't see any more hands. Oh, wait, there's Dave, UHA.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, Dave, WA6UHA. Yeah, I use the D-Star repeater, also use DMR. The only thing that I was concerned about is when do you know for sure if somebody is using DMR and you have D-Star? And you really can't tell when the QSO is over because you got to hear some audio to know whether they've said 73 or not. So I guess you have to use common sense. And when the QSO is over, I guess you should wait maybe about a minute or so when you don't see any activity on the frequency that you can go ahead and make your call on another mode. For instance, if there was a DMR QSO going on, and hopefully they're finished, you haven't heard anything in about a minute or so, then you could make your D-Star call. I guess it's a common sense situation, Jim. Wouldn't you agree to that as far as procedure in a situation like that?
I agree. Of course, you can have more courtesy if you can hear them, and you can. If somebody says, "Oh, somebody's at the door," I'll be right back. In effect, they're saying the QSO is not over, so please, nobody else take over. And if you're on the other mode, you're not going to know that.
Yeah.
I mean, if people are there and sitting and they're not able to respond in 20 seconds, maybe the QSO should be over. But there are times when if you could hear what they said, you're right. The courteous thing would be to not jump in.
You mentioned the tech committee talked about this at length, and on normal, casual QSOs, well, you got a minute, as Dave has suggested. Hi, Dave. That's fine, but what if you're wanting to pass some traffic and you got a buddy on D-Star that's going to hit you on another reflector or something. I want to talk about that in a minute too. That you really want to get on, and this is going to be a grab and go. It's going to get ugly, because it's not always an idle repeater. Now, other than that question, what about this thing? We're on 14 Charlie all the time. Will that not be connected anymore?
Well, I think this will be an experiment about where we want to be linked, if you will. I think 14 Charlie is going to work out because it's kind of, to me, the ideal reflector on the West Coast. There's often someone there monitoring. They probably have the radio on in their shack doing something else
right now.
And yet they're not jabbering 24/7, which you don't want. And so I kind of I think 14 Charlie is a good one for the D-Star people in this area. But let's find out how it works.
My specific question is 14 Charlie traffic that could be from anywhere in the world spooks up the repeater. Okay?
Right.
And that would obliterate anybody trying to get on with DMR. And sometimes that goes on for quite a while. How are you going to handle that traffic?
Well, of course, we highly encourage people to learn how to send commands to tell the repeater to link or unlink. Or on DMR, we're using Brandmeister, so they can move off of the current talk
group. This is my very question. 14 Charlie is by default there all the time, and that's all the audio I hear, and it comes on when absolutely nobody hears.
But you're free to disconnect it yourself. We encourage people to do that.
Well, I'm not always going to be here to do that. I like it being defaulted. That's people call me from all over the country, but now. My question is, will it have to be turned off? And you only hear 14 Charlie when you want to bring it up, so it can be a good neighbor.
I hope not. I
see an immediate train wreck on this.
Well, you may be right. Let's all remember, and then when we do the experiment, we'll find out.
People monitor D-Star, and I just monitor 14C. That's fine with me. And I would say there's probably traffic hourly, if not half hourly, and there's some nets that are on there.
Yeah.
The Ham Nation net or something comes on there.
Oh yeah. The whole thing with nets can be controlled because those are scheduled, and if you want the net to be in charge of the whole computer, we can make that happen.
Well, I don't want anything. I'm just a listener at this point.
Yeah, and if we collectively don't want a particular net that's on 14 Charlie to take over our computer, we can just make sure that doesn't happen.
Will the DMR talk group, I think it's called, or is it going to be defaulted to a certain talk group like D-Star is defaulted?
Yeah, and a quiet one. That's the whole point. Something where you have somebody to talk to. The thing about DMR, it's so easy to go.
I'm listening to something.
Oh, okay.
Mark, we have some other people with their hands up.
I know I'm finished, but he's particularly talking about my question, and I will yield the floor. But I see a train wreck coming, and good night.
Okay, it's time to yield the floor, Mark. Thank you.
That's something I can pause.
Greg, RRI, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, hi, this is Greg, KM6RRI. You talked about like busy reflectors, like reflector 1. I use D-Star occasionally. What if I want to use reflector 1 and I have it up for a while and that's busy? That's going to tie up the repeater, correct?
Yes, and yet, let's say that if what was going to happen if you hadn't come along was that our repeater was going to be quiet for the next 25 minutes. So what's the harm if you put it on 1 Charlie? All I would ask is that if you figured out how to link there, how to send the RF command from your radio to ask our repeater to link to 1 Charlie, that when you're done that you do the unlink, and preferably then link back to 14 Charlie. But if it was going to be, if you were going to be either no one or you, I see nothing wrong with 1 Charlie. It's just I wouldn't want to have it be there all the time because it would take over the repeater.
Okay, that makes sense. And then you talked about unlinking. So, like, I assume like somebody from DMR would not be able to unlink a D-Star reflector unless they had a D-Star radio, and I couldn't unlink somebody that had DMR. So that's where we can't really control that. So.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Hey, UHA.
Yeah, in regards to activity, excuse me, I clear my throat. On 14 Charlie, the Ham Nation net it used to be every Wednesday at 7 p.m. local time, but now Ham Nation is only on every other week. So 14 Charlie's not that busy, except for just two Wednesdays out of the month in most cases, starting at 7 p.m. locally, as far as when that post-Ham Nation D-Star net begins on 14 Charlie. So I don't think it's much of a problem. I really like CX utilizing 14 Charlie as the default system, although most of the time I'm using a hotspot and not using the repeater.
Yeah, it's often true.
Just a note.
Bill, SGT, did you have your hand up at a moment? moment ago? N6SGT, Bill?
Negative.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood then. That's all the hands I see. Anyone else? Mark, you're back.
Well, thank you for letting me back on. I don't want to be a dead horse, but if you have any reflector up, it's going to block it from DMR. And any talk group up, it's going to block it from D-Star.
Yeah.
Will we still default on either system to like we do today with 14C on D-Star? Or will that go away and it'll just be a local repeater?
Well, I think we should start with 14 Charlie as the default reflector for D-Star, and let's see how it works. If it gets too busy and it's just kind of hogging the repeater, then we could review that. And I mean, what matters is what members like you and others are experiencing and how you feel about it. I mean, this is a service for our members and maybe future members in the area. So I'd like to start with it and see. If DMR users find that it's that the D-Star is always jabbering because of 14 Charlie, we might have to question it. But and likewise, as far as setting up a static talk group on the DMR side, we wouldn't want to pick one that, we wouldn't want to pick worldwide talk group 91. I mean, that would be the same as 1 Charlie on D-Star. It would take over the repeater.
I got it. Thank you, Jim. I got a question for Mr. Tittle, K6SOE. If you can unmute. He's a technical committee chair.
Yes.
So this whole project, I guess, is still underneath the technical committee's purview. Is that correct?
That's correct. That it's still an experiment until we prove it all to be ready to go on the hilltop.
So, Mark, it sounds like WA6NGC, it sounds like you have a lot of experience here, so maybe you would like to interface with them, if you have not already, with the technical committee. I know they meet early on Saturday mornings, like 8 o'clock in the morning, which I'm thinking about getting out of bed at that time. But something you might...
on FRS and CB here at Rossmore starting at 8, so I can handle D-Star.
Okay. So you might want to consider, I think if you're on the groups.io reflector, so you probably get the technical committee Zoom invitation, so you might want to...
My comments are not technical, they're traffic.
Well, correct, but I think they're trying to do the same thing that you want to do, and that it has, call it being user-friendly or usable. Does that make sense? So I think that you probably have some stuff you can certainly plug in.
It sounds like I'm fixing to lose 14 Charlie and D-Star if I don't have a hotspot, and I don't have a hotspot. But I'm only using this because I've got an old radio from Atlanta, and maybe it's time to go. I'll listen, but I got a feeling it's going to change the way I've been using that, but maybe I've been overusing it. You know?
Well, you may be indicative of a population that's in the same boat as you, so it's worth putting that information into the technical committee, I think, before they roll this out.
Radio on, I listen to CX D-Star and whatever it's defaulted on, and I bet you I hear 1 or 2 calls or traffic hourly. And people will go on and do a radio check or something anywhere in the world, and I'll people from Europe and all that occasionally, so forth. So I just play with it because I've got it sitting in front of me, but I may be overly using it.
All right. Well, we want to make sure that you're not excluded from the conversation, okay? Mike, I'll move it back to you, N6JGA. Do you have a question? Jim, I see you got the hands up, but then I'll move it back to N6JGA as moderator.
I did want to have one comment regarding DMR, that you can have the repeater sitting on a talk group all the time, but the other feature that DMR has is that anybody can bring up any talk group anywhere for 10 minutes and then it shuts off. So I don't think that, that really the DMR side, when Tim had his machine up on Mount Diablo, he had several talk groups that were live all the time. There wasn't really much traffic on any of them. And any of the talk groups that were brought up temporarily, of course, just dropped out 10 minutes later. So I don't think you should be so scared of losing your talk group, Charlie.
Well, a comment on that is I have it all the time now. It doesn't go away. It defaults to it. It's there 24/7 unless somebody has changed it. And I understand the way it works now is if somebody else changes it to 1C or 30C or something, and it's unused, it will revert back to 14C. Is that the case, Jim?
It actually doesn't automatically revert, but we document on the D-Star page on the MDARC website how to program your radio, so you can make it go back yourself. It does go back every night. We reset everything in the middle of the night, but if somebody changes to another talk group and then goes to bed, it'll stay there until somebody else uses their radio to put it wherever they want.
At least once a day, traffic-wise, it's back to 14C.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's fine. Maybe we should stop that. It's only 14C when somebody wants it.
It's a possibility. I'd love to see if we can maintain what we have now, and if it works with multi-mode, that's great. And if not, we'll make
That'd be a good
adjustments.
traffic experiment.
Yeah.
Like, we're like at an intersection. There's too many cars coming.
Yeah.
Larry, I don't see any other hands up.
The repair bills when something crashes.
Oh, you just stop using it.
So final call for questions? I guess we're done, Larry.
Well, thank you, Mike, for moderating this portion. You're welcome to sit around and chat for a while. We can keep this open until for maybe 15 minutes if there's still some conversation that's going on. Glad to have it.
Oh, I guess I have a comment for Lauren, Dave here, about the knife. Can you hear me? You're still muted, Lauren.
The knife, is that something they? Never mind.
Never mind. No.
Lauren, you there?
You're still muted.
Oh yeah, he's working on it. Give him till Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think that this has regards to our very successful camp out that we had last weekend.
Oh.
Lauren discovered a knife that may not have belonged to him. He doesn't know who it belonged to that was left over from the camp out and so forth. I think I checked out my stuff and I believe everything is accounted for as far as utensils and so forth.
Yeah, it went home last night to Julie.
Oh, it was Julie's?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. It looks similar, but there was one part of it looked sort of it was a dark stripe, so I don't know whether that was a shadow or something. But I went down the basement to check, and everything's all accounted for.
Good, very good. Sounds like you had a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time. I'm working on a video now that is going to be linked, and I'll let the webmaster know to do a link from YouTube once I get the video completed of the camping trip. Not too much radio-related stuff, but it's fun. So even though there, as I said, not too much involving amateur radio, there was enough that would keep your interest in watching there what went on. And one surprise too that you'll see in the video.
Which surprise? I'm not going to ask which surprise, but does it have to do with Ruth's new boyfriend?
Oh, you mean that wandered into the campground?
Yes.
Yes. I guess you'd say that, yes.
Was this the group streaking event that you're talking about?
Well, put it this way, let me give you a hint. Hanna-Barbera, I'll give you that.
Hanna-Barbera weekend.
Yeah.
That's a dead giveaway right there. Yeah.
Jim, take this change the subject real quick. Dave reminded me, if you're going to make your slides available, if you could send them to me, and I'll get them up on the website.
Will do.
Yeah. So I was a little late. Did we miss anything on field day? Pretty much, I guess, it's covered already in the carrier and so forth. I went ahead and put in my reservation for the barbecue because I'm going to be there late Saturday afternoon. I'm going to be doing the SFRC for a little while during the day, and then I'm going to head over to Concord.
It'd be great to have you there, Dave.
Looking to be a pleasure.
Yeah, I got a question for Larry Loomer.
Well, go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah. What changes did they make in the licensing process? I got my new license on the 15th.
Congratulations.
Is that good or bad, Bruce? You complaining?
No, I'm not complaining. I was just surprised. I was looking for it until next week or so. I got this authorization message from FCC, and I said, oh, okay. So I started tinkering with it, and my new license popped out.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, you must have paid $16 instead of $15 then to get the extra service.
Yeah. Okay. I was just kind of surprised that it came out so quick. I mean,
well, write the government and give them a bad time. Tell them they were too prompt.
Yeah, money speaks.
Yeah, I know. After working for the government for 30 years, I understand how they work.
I had one more question with the the Contra Costa Fusion Group. I've been talking to some people there and also on their website. It appears that even though Fusion can run analog or Fusion, there is so much confusion with operators that they've elected to be Fusion only. I take that as a traffic problem. Something to be learned from that. Also, is there no other DMR service in the area and nobody else up on Mount Diablo? And why do we choose that and not Fusion?
Well, two things. K6MDD is now a Fusion repeater, and so we already have a Mount Diablo 2-meter Fusion repeater, and we don't need to compete with them. I mean, they're providing that service. Was there another question there? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so there's really no DMR service.
Oh, right.
There's no Contra Costa DMR.
Well, there are DMR repeaters scattered around, and particularly on 440. But for 2-meter, there's no 2-meter DMR.
Through, Patrick, please mute.
There's no 2-meter DMR repeater on the hill right now. And so that's kind of, if you will, a void that our changes will help fill.
Right.
So what are the Fusion frequencies? I actually I thought I had it dialed in, but I really hadn't been hearing anything on my Yaesu FTM 400 DR.
Wherever K6MDD D-Star, a DMR was, that's their frequency now. I can't remember.
I'm sure it's on their website.
Wasn't there a VHF and a UHF frequency, both?
I don't know. I'm not.
Okay.
Not for MDD. No.
Tim did an interesting thing. It's really very clever. He put up a vanilla Yaesu Fusion repeater using what's called WireX as their networking, and that's kind of a closed network. And then he created a bridge between that repeater using WireX and a more public Fusion network. He did that by, he has I don't know if you've heard of an open spot. It's basically, it sits at the repeater site, so it's got perfect audio coming into it, and then it puts it back out on the internet into a different, more open network for Fusion users. And so he therefore gets all kinds of traffic. Ultimately, it comes from a fusion radio, but he's actually merged Wires X network and this other more public network, and very clever.
Okay, Mr. Taylor was showing you the frequency, Larry. There, did you get
Larry,
it?
here's your channel.
I was at 144.975. Is that correct?
144.975.
All right. Thank you.
And the RX is 00 and the TX is 00.
Okay, thank you very much. I think when I first heard that it was that frequency was going to be used for this, I think I heard a fair amount of chatter on it, but recently I haven't really heard that much, so I kind of dialed away from it.
Okay, then there's another 440 machine on Monument Boulevard, 441.050.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of when I was thinking of VHF. Or UHF, sorry. All right, thank you. So, any other questions? Mary, you haven't said anything. I know I put you on mute earlier there because I was kind of hearing some background noise. I don't know that it was from you or not, so I apologize if I muted you unnecessarily. But how you doing, Mary? Oh, you are on mute now. I can't help. I can't unmute.
Okay.
There you go.
The sound wasn't for me, so.
Yeah, I don't
know where it was.
Yeah. It was probably
well, I'm at Tahoe and it was 87 degrees today. I don't know what it was down your way.
Tolerably hotter. Or intolerably hotter, I guess they got to say.
Yeah.
It hit 113 at my house today. So others had similar reports. But yeah, it came about this close to like, all right, get the garden hose out there and spray and run around on the deck in the backyard. Got real close.
I listened to the SNARS, the Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Club Hospital Net today. Is our Hospital Net back up yet?
I think that would be a Larry Loomer question.
Our Hospital Net has always been up. It's on the fourth Wednesday of the month on the W6CX repeater at noon. It's always been up.
Okay. I tried it one time and they said they thought during COVID they weren't broadcasting because everybody's so busy.
They didn't do the simplex portion of the hospital's net, but the repeater portion of the hospital's net has always been available, always been done on the fourth Wednesday at noon.
Thanks, Larry. Have they ever actually used that for a disaster or something? Do you know?
Not that I know of. I've been with them for 12 years, and we haven't done that, and we haven't actually reported beds available and things like that. But we're all practiced up, ready to go in case that is required.
Good. I was surprised on the SNARSnet. Some of the people had advanced licenses. It wasn't just technicians only. So they were into ham radio.
That's good. It's a good thing.
Patrick, thank you for sticking with us. It's been a long night for you. It's getting to be, midnight for you?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, golly. So
where's Patrick?
He's in Georgia.
Ah.
I am on the Georgia-North Carolina border.
Hey, Patrick, we missed you at the camp out.
I had a reason I couldn't be there.
We know. I heard from Jeff.
Yeah.
You're next.
Yeah. Get better. So.
Your
So
time will come.
It is, if you're on the Georgia, you said Georgia, North Carolina?
Yes, sir.
So is there a lot of border crossing because of better sales tax or things like that?
Well, for me, my nearest grocery store is in North Carolina. My nearest liquor store is in North Carolina. My nearest Georgia liquor store is about an hour away.
Oh.
My nearest North Carolina liquor store is about 12 minutes away.
So do you have a sales tax in North Carolina and and also a sales tax in Georgia?
Yes, and it's within 1% of each other. I try to buy in Georgia when I can, so we keep the money.
Yeah. Yeah, when you go to that liquor store, we want you to drive that 1 hour.
No. Now, on the other hand, I will say that the registration for my cars is about $26 a year, and my motor home, which is a really killer for me, is $110 a year.
Oh.
Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Yeah, really.
Yeah, poor thing. You poor thing.
So, Patrick, how often do you go to Dollywood?
I have never been to Dollywood.
Or how about the casino there at Cherokee? I've been to there a few times.
I have been to casino at Murphy. I go about once a month for dinner. The casino in Cherokee, I have driven by 2 or 3 times, but we're always on our way somewhere, and I haven't stopped yet. But if you're ever in that area, you have to give me a holler, and I'll meet you somewhere, and we'll have dinner.
I moved here 5 years ago from Gwinnett County by Stone Mountain.
Okay.
Which I'm still a life member of the Stone Mountain Ham Club down there because it's on the Channel 8 tower. I was director of engineering, and we had some stuff, some translators up by Hiawassee and stuff like that.
Okay. I am truly sorry that you had to go to California.
Chasing the grandkids.
Oh, what a grandpa.
And we were in Georgia 28 years. Enjoyed it, but I don't miss the humidity. That's the thing I don't miss. And we're in a place that's not bad.
That's what I like about here. Where I'm at, the humidity is not bad at all. Gwinnett County just reminds me too much of a big